Match applicants' desperate desire. As I continue on my journey through the upcoming match cycle, I've been thinking, why isn't there a comprehensive guide out there to help us navigate this daunting process? From securing rotations to attending conferences and even landing a research fellow position. Why does it feel like everyone's keeping their secrets to themselves? And I wish someone would create a manual of unwritten, top secret, highly effective rules. This is to all important people out there who can guide the young doctors through these rough waters. Please let yourselves be known, pretty please. And there you have it. I saw this on LinkedIn. This was posted 2 days ago. And I commented right away. I said, all right, I got you. I did the first set of best USMLE prep videos no one was doing and outdid Kaplan and others in quality. And that's something I firmly believe in. I mean, of course, I'm biased, but I was making little simple videos for myself. It was my own little study process, my own little learning. Um, People told me those videos are looking pretty good and asked me to share on YouTube, and then I started redoing the videos in a slightly more professional manner. Nothing crazy. My bedroom was in the back. I had different clothes on all the time. There was no antics in my videos, no editing, any of that. And boom, next thing you know, people started sharing it everywhere because my passion for teaching was always showing in it. And then I told Alina Khan, now I'll do this. And 13 hours ago, she responded saying, yes, please, much needed. Now, the match process is an intense story, and there are many reasons people are unable to share things often. I mean, for one thing, a lot of people just don't have time. On the other hand, a lot of people just don't have the antics of really making YouTube videos. You know, not everyone shares much on social media. Some people are very private, right? And it's a mix of things, mix of things. Other times, there's really no streamer mode per se on, my ERAS and other USMLE related websites. And by streamer mode, in case you're not aware, streamer mode is basically a mode that certain websites and platforms have where you can hide sensitive data, right? So you can't really do that on my ERAS. If I'm sharing my screen on the NRMP website, you're going to see my USMLE ID, my ECFMG ID, which are all identifiers. So you're better off kind of keeping that to yourself, you know. There's a lot of things like that out there. Now, what you're seeing on the screen is mostly going to be me talking about every single step of what I had to do to make it to match, right? I recently matched. I haven't really been active on YouTube for the past 2 years because I've been working on match, and it's been a lot. I've also been working a lot. And this match 2025, I was finally able to get my number one program. Arnett Ogden, family medicine, and family medicine was what I was aspiring for. So we're set in that aspect, right? I wanted to just basically be a PCP, either through IM or FM. There were mixed opinions people had online, mixed data people had online about whether IM or FM or, you know, what's going to be easier or more suitable to me. And as I enjoy my hookah that I'm still warming up another cold for, I'm going to share everything that happened for me ever since my journey started. Now, my journey started quite a while ago, a very, very long time ago. In fact, I started at All Saints University School of Medicine in 2014, January, right after I finished at Hofstra University here in New York, my hometown, a prestigious, very nice private university where I was both a mathematics major and pre-med. Right after that, I jumped right into looking at what I can do for medical school. Now, I had the opportunity to, of course, take MCAT and all of that, but I didn't want to spend time on that. And I also wasn't really going through the best scenarios in life to try MCAT and try applying for medical school within America. It just wasn't in the books for me, for many reasons, irrelevant. However, I did find a Caribbean university, All Saints University at the time, located on the island of Dominica, that was small enough to just easily get into, afford, and had students that had matched. So that's all I really needed, you know. I went ahead and signed up. I did my years there. I came back and did rotations all over different parts of America, sometimes in Atlanta, sometimes in Chicago. I was in New York for the rest of my electives. And then my match journey started right away in March of 2023. While a lot of people were enjoying their results from match 2023, including some close friends of mine and even some of my colleagues from All Saints University at the time, I had just now passed step two. So you're probably thinking, right? 2014, I started med school. What happened? What took so long? And that's kind of where things kick in. You see, my match was quite legendary, and there are many stories like mine out there. I'm not that unique, but it was very unprecedented that I would even match. I had started preparing my life with the plans for what I would do when I see that I didn't match, this last time. And to make it was just so remarkable that I have been doing my best to share and pass this on to everyone that I meet. After 2023, I finished my USMLE step 2, and I started looking at what I'm going to do for preparation, right? So Match 2024 was coming up, and I started working on my personal statement. I started reaching out to professors who I had worked under, doctors I had worked under, and started getting my letter of recommendations together, putting together my CV, looking at what I'm missing in it. Um, you can see I was interviewing for a lot of different clinical research coordinator positions as well, because that's really what I was in. And what was happening throughout 2023 was that I was working at NYU Langone. I had started sometime in late 2022. I was working at NYU Langone Health as a senior clinical research coordinator at the Department of Vascular Surgery under Dr. Mikhail Sadik, who is the program director for NYU Langone Vascular Surgery Integrated Residency. Now, vascular surgery is a one-seat residency program. There's only one seat open in every vascular surgery program. I have yet to find one that has more than one. So excuse me if there is one and I'm not aware. And it wasn't my goal to work at the vascular surgery department at NYU. I wanted to work under Dr. Patrick Cox in the internal medicine department, but there was nothing there for me. There were no other openings that were reaching back to me. So when the administrator from vascular surgery reached back, I went ahead and interviewed, got the job. These were all busy surgeons, right? Dr. Mikhail Sede, Dr. Thomas Maldonado, Dr. Karan Garg, all really busy people. And there's a lot of medical device clinical research that was going on, and they needed someone who was adept at both clinical research and medicine so that I could handle their patients, consent patients, follow them, really identify side effects and other things while I'm communicating with them, and schedule things accordingly so that their management could be as optimal as possible, kind of taking some pressure off of the surgeons. My goal here was also to get fresh letter recommendations because mine had gotten really old now, and they weren't really reflective, in my opinion, of who I was now, back compared to back when I was doing rotations in 2020. So when I finished working with them for quite some time, I did a lot to do extra stuff with them outside of what's on my job duty. And NYU Langone was a wonderful opportunity, not only because of where I was working, but I also utilized my time there to basically transition myself to different departments, network with different departments, explore all the different conferences that were happening on site. There were doctors that come from all over America, even international doctors that would visit to give talks, and I would attend everything because my ID allowed me to get into any door I wanted, and I was using it and abusing it as best as possible. Lots of nice free food as well, but more importantly, I got to learn a lot. People sharing their cases, people discussing all kinds of conflicts everywhere, things that they're working on to improve medicine. It was phenomenal. I also contributed back to NYU by, working with other physicians that were running courses, and if there was anything I could volunteer in, I would go ahead and do that. And it was all something that kind of built me up. So as I'm going along, I'm also taking on projects with Dr. Mikhail Sadik, working directly with him on literature reviews, different data sets from within, and trying to really get him to see that I really want to match into vascular surgery, and was that my lifelong goal? Of course not, right? Matching surgery is ridiculously hard. There's a lot of uh, networking necessary, a lot of politics involved. There's a lot there. But at the end of the day, you got to work with what you have, right? And I was able to convince him about how much I love vascular surgery and why, and he could see it. He could see it because it was true. I mean, it's not that hard to not love vascular surgery. It's super cool what you can do besides the taking care of thrombectomies, working with aortic patients, working with patients with carotid issues, and even just really doing all the clinical research with new medical devices, novel devices that are meant to help make thrombectomies easier or make any carotid or aortic work easier. It's just really, really invigorating. And I was having a great time. I was putting together case reports. I was talking about everything with a lot of passion. And as things went on, as we're approaching match day, an NYU student also decided to, show face and start working with Dr. Sadik, and he was interested in being a vascular surgeon. And from every angle, some angles which you've seen already, he was also Indian. He is also Indian, and so am I, of course, right? So that was fascinating. But of course, he was better in every angle, right? Besides just being an NYU student himself, he had all the scores he needed. He had all the experience he needed. He had everything, and I'm sure he interviewed extremely, extremely well as well. I was able to get an interview in 2024 for vascular surgery. Um, Basically because I worked there, so it's more so an interview I'm being given, not that I really may have deserved it per se. And I had one other interview last year for pediatrics. Not something that I'm very passionate about, not something that I'm really looking to pursue. Not really a fan of it, right? But at the end of the day, I was ready to take what I would get because uh, I was desperate, and I was in the wrong mindset. It's the incorrect way of thinking per se. Um, my vascular surgery interview went fine, nothing crazy, but he got it. His name was Kirti, and he got it, and he's doing phenomenally well. And I had a feeling he would because I had worked with him, the whole time he was there with Dr. Sadik and me, and I could see, what it means to really be an NYU med school student, and what it means to be someone who's been preparing to become a vascular surgeon. It's really a different aura. Other than that, I was pretty torn apart, but not entirely. I wouldn't really call it torn apart. More so, I knew I wouldn't match. I applied anyway, but I knew I wouldn't match because there was something about me. Two things: I didn't have hands-on U.S. clinical experience. Right, working in clinical research, you get some clinical experience, but you're responsible for a few things, but not really patient management and patient healthcare, right? You're not really sending prescriptions. You're not really doing any procedures per se. I had a lot of training and I did do a lot of evaluations for patients, but it wasn't sufficient. And on top of that, having fails on my previous USMLE step one and step two, any program director would be like, okay, this guy's going to fail step three also. And I wasn't done with step three at the time. So right after match results came out, I having spent so much time in the USMLE journey and med school, I was considering quitting. And I pulled myself together. I took a little vacation. I kept working when I got back, and then I started looking into things I could do to fill the gaps. Right. U.S. clinical experience, step three. All right, great. So I need to take step three and pass it on my first attempt, and I need to find something that'll get me hands-on U.S. clinical experience. Those things are easier for IMGs that are abroad, right? Non-U.S. IMGs, because I know a lot of IMGs from India, and in India, what happens is after med school, you do a house job, and you're actually a doctor. You're sending prescriptions, you're evaluating patients. You get hands-on clinical experience. It's not U.S. clinical experience, but it's clinical experience, and that matters, right? A lot of programs here that take non-U.S. IMGs heavily, they love that. They actually take non-U.S. IMGs because of that, because they want to train these international physicians. Um, US IMGs are very lackluster in that aspect. There aren't many opportunities for us here in America to do something where we would be working with patients and sending prescriptions. But I found something. Missouri was offering a limited license to anyone that is credible and has the qualifications and necessary standards that they need. And I applied for it. I got my restricted license to work in Missouri as a doctor, and I found someone who I can work with, and I got hired, and I moved. And it was a huge, huge moment for me. So sometime in like late 2024, I quit NYU, and I say my goodbyes to everyone. And then while everyone else was moving to start their PGY1, I moved to Missouri, Columbia, Missouri. Uh, Huge move for me going from New York to such a rural area to work at an urgent care, at Columbia Urgent Care. And I was working there and I was seeing patients. I was paid $20 per patient, better than having to pay to do something. And it was less pay than what I was making at NYU. It was not really capped per se, but we didn't have that many patients. There were other assistant physicians there with me, but I wasn't there for the money. I was there for the experience, and the money was good to take care of rent and gas and other expenses. And sending prescriptions and seeing patients and really experiencing the different kinds of things you would see at an urgent care built me big time. In fact, all the interviews I got when I applied for Match 2025 were thrilled to ask me about what I did, certain experiences I had, and they had specific questions as well. We'll get to that when I discuss interviews. And that eventually led to also giving me time to take step three. And I went ahead and took step three, and I was able to pass my step three on my very first attempt. Um, I took it August 16, 2024. Right, so this is August 2023. So we just keep going. Like now, I'm working in Missouri. All kinds of things are happening. I've got flights and stuff. I'm traveling a little bit, trying to really take care of myself. And then June, July, August, right here, I finally take my step three. I finished that, all done. August 16th, right here, right? See my appointment. Took it in St. Louis, Missouri. Got that done with, and 1 month in, I get my results and I've passed. And I was beyond thrilled. For the first time ever, I passed the USMLE exam on my first attempt. Now, that was something I never saw coming. Um, I started working on putting together everything I need to have ready to go ahead and now apply for Match 2025. And there was another very important part of Match 2025 that's coming up now. Let me see. When did it happen? October, November. Da, 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 da. Nope, not that one. Basically, at some point somewhere here we'll find it. Project IMG had their event, a networking event for you to come meet people and try to see if you can, find someone that'll help you match, and you talk to people, you introduce yourself, you really come prepared to kill it. And when you meet these people, right here, so 10 a.m. the IMG event, Project IMG, New York. I came to this, I attended it, had a great time, met people, networked with a lot of residents who then were able to connect me with other residents who were in programs, right? And it is one of those programs that I matched into. So attending the IMG event there was a crucial part of how I matched. I don't know what would have happened if I didn't attend it. I met not just residents, but I also met medical students that came up to me because they recognized me from USMLE Live, and that was really fun. I went as a VIP guest. I met everyone I could, and it was a really fun time, but also extremely productive. And it's definitely arguable that had I not attended it, I may not have matched. Right? It could have happened. It could have happened that if I don't attend this event and I don't talk to the people who I did, and then don't connect with the people that they connect me to, and if I don't carry myself the way I did, prepare myself the way I did, communicate with people the way I did, something would have gone wrong, and I possibly would not have matched. So that was a big part of it. I'm done with all three things that are extremely critical for match, right? Communicating with people, networking, getting my US clinical experience, finishing all three steps. There isn't really anything left for me to do now that I have all of that. I gathered every single letter of recommendation I could from the best physicians I ever worked with, and I had two from NYU as well, which is a very strong academic LOR, right? That's a very powerful LOR. In fact, I had three from there, but two that I used everywhere. So I had almost everyone there that I worked with write me something, and they were very happy to do so. Um, I used those, and I also had my Dr. Anton, who was my psych rotation. Very hands-on, very lovely time. He's the chief of the department, so it was also a very powerful LOR to utilize. And I had from the doctor I worked with in Missouri write me an LOR as well about my, he evaluated me, and it was pretty much a standardized letter of evaluation which you could use for emergency medicine applications, residency, and he wrote everything about things I had done. He is a regenerative medicine physician, Dr. Jonathan Morris. So he also did IV. He did a lot of therapy for weight loss, and he also had a Suboxone license. So we had addiction management, and I had infinite stories to share during my interviews about all the experiences I had there. And my time there, I also fell in love with working as a physician. It was a confirmation to me about how much I really liked this urgent care life. And I also enjoyed the rural aspect of things, having gone from the city and always being a city boy. Living in the rural place, treating patients in the rural environment was very different, very different. And people are different in rural settings because they have a little more time, they're more relaxed, they get to know you, they ask you about your family, you ask them about their family, and so on and so forth. It's a whole different dynamic. Um, when time came, I started sending emails right away to every program director I could. If you start reaching out before they get busy again, possibly in like June, maybe early July, you start reaching out to programs. They will often respond. They see your email. Program coordinators see your email. They respond, and you never know. Maybe they like what you sent them. I always sent my ERAS application, my ERAS CV, any LORs that I had on hand, and my USMLE transcript, so that they could see that this guy is actually pretty much done with everything. And um, I had also finished OET, which unfortunately, clearly I speak English fine. I've been in American school all my life. I've gone through American everything. I had to take OET. Funny thing is, my OET in 2 years expired because I took it early and then I was ready and available with it for Match 2024, but it expired in time for Match 2025. So, of course, you could forget all your English in 2 years, so I had to take it again. Really, really horrendous system. I'm sure there's a lot of space to change all of that when things move on, but it was really annoying. That was the last test I had to take. I took it June 8th, 2021 the first time, and then I took it again very recently because I had to. And that 2021 one had expired. It's just really silly. Um, anyway, I did all of that, and then when I applied, I got interviews, and uh, surprisingly enough, very excitingly, I was able to get many interviews, and that was beyond thrilling. I still can't believe the fact that I had so many interviews coming in so quickly because I really didn't see it coming. So you can see here I had 5 invitations, right? All 5 of them are on the screen for you to browse through. So within days of submitting my application, I had an extremely early interview, the Indiana University one. First interview, October 29. I was like, whoa, that was quick. I already have an interview. They must have really liked something about me. And that was for psychiatry, 4-year program in Indiana, also somewhat rural. I was able to convince them a lot of things, and we'll talk about each interview separately in future videos. I had an interview then soon after from Hackensack University, Palisades, and I was thrilled because that's a pretty big program to have an interview from. Then soon after that again, Arnett Ogden, and again from Aiken, and then even in early December from Valley Health System Internal Medicine in Vegas. So every week you can imagine, another thrilling email would come, another moment of hope and joy would be formed, and I'd be really thrilled that I'm getting these interviews, and I would prep and I would do everything. I would do some mock interviews and whatnot, and then just go do my very best in every single interview. And I remember all of them vividly. I have notes on all of them, and I'm going to share all of that with you too. And in future videos, we're now going to go through what did everything look like. We're going to talk about my interview prep. We'll look at the LOR aspect of things. We'll see my personal statements, really share them with you guys, see what I wrote, what I talked about. and any other credentials, working on the CV, making sure it's as optimal as possible, and much more coming up in the next episode. So I really hope that this set of videos is going to be something that allows a lot of you to understand things you might be missing out on, things that you might have questions on. And as we go on, I hope that if I can even get one person to feel better prepared for their upcoming match, then these videos were worth it. So thanks a lot for watching, and see you in the next one.